And we had throughout the process the able leadership and guidance of the Attorney General and his staff, of which we are very grateful, the Land Attorney General. Every step, every letter, every comma of this bill went through the able leadership of and scrutiny by the Attorney General. And so it is even in order that we appear together as government. We went through cabinet. So, as you stated, let me admit that the existing law, the Uganda People's Defense Forces, has defects. Of which defects we are trying to rectify. And in any legislation, you do that through amendment. Because of the advancements, because of the need to make the UPDF one of the greatest defense forces in the world, not just in Africa. And we've given this background to you. Let me now ask the Permanent Secretary to take on from there and
Clause 1D on court martial. Why define court martial? The Principal Act defines court martial to mean it excludes the Unity Disciplinary Committee and says court martial only includes division court martial, the general court martial, and court martial appeal court. Honorable Chair, following the judgment, the constitutional appeal judgment, appeal number 2 of Attorney General versus Honorable Kabaziguruka, the judgment, the lead judge, the CJ, he pronounced that the summary trial authority, which was one of the courts, and the unity disciplinary committees cannot exercise judicial they cannot exercise judicial offenses. Now, they do not have the judicial mandate. Hence, we sat down and have done away.
Did you want to say judicial functions?
Judicial functions. Thank you, Honorable. Now, the CJ said the summary trial authority, the unity disciplinary committee cannot exercise the judicial functions. We have therefore decided to remove the summary trial authority, and we now, what used to be the unit disciplinary committee, we have what we call the unit court martial. And we have also done away with the court martial appeal court. Court martial appeal court is the court which was higher than the general court martial. Appeals from the general court martial used to go to the court martial appeal court. We have now done away with this court. Hence, the need for this definition of court martial. Similarly, of military court under page 7, following the same reasoning, military court had been defined to include this summary trial authority, the unity disciplinary committee, which we have done away with, as well as the court martial appeal court. Thus, the need for defining the military veteran. That takes me, Honorable Chair, to clause 1J, which is the Pensions Authority. We have been given a go-ahead to move away from public service being the pension, regulating our pensions and gratuity. Hence, the Principal Act, which we seek to amend, provides the Pension Authority being the permanent secretary of public service. This bill now seeks to replace the PS Public Service with the PS Ministry of Defense Veteran Affairs as the Pensions Authority. That takes me, Chair, to clause 1, and this clause is at page 11 of the bill. Section 7B is on designation of the authority known as Deputy Chief of Defense Forces. This Deputy Chief of Defense Forces is already established under Section 7B, but what are we including? We are giving the deputy, we seek to give the Deputy Chief of Defense Forces the function of Inspector General of the Defense Forces. This is Inspector General of the Defense Forces is under Section 28 of the Principal Act. Under that Section 28, the functions of Inspector General of Defense Forces are set therein. However, it only points out that these functions are to be, the person responsible shall be a person under the CDF, the Chief Defense Forces. Hence, we are now seeking to give these functions to the Deputy Chief of Defense Forces. Chair, that takes me to clause 6 and 7, which seek to amend sections 10, 13, and 14. And this is at page now 13 and 14, whereby we seek to expand the composition of the Defense Forces Council. Defense Forces Council is an organ within the Defense Forces Act.
C, where the person is in unlawful possession of arms, ammunition, or equipment ordinarily being the monopoly of the Defense Forces as prescribed in Schedule 7A of this Act, or classified stores as prescribed in Schedule 7B of the bill, and commits an offense under any written law. D, where the person aids and abets a person subject to military law in the commission of or conspires with a person subject to military law to commit murder, aggravated robbery, kidnap with intent to murder, treason, misprision of treason, and cattle rustling. E, where the person without authority is found in possession of, sells or wears a uniform, the correction there should be SELLS, sells or wears a uniform of the Defense Forces. F, where a person is found in unlawful possession of arms, ammunition, equipment ordinarily being the monopoly of the Defense Forces prescribed in Schedule 7A of the Act and classified stores in Schedule B of the Act. Where a person is serving in the position of an officer or militant of any force raised and maintained outside and commanded by an officer of the Defense Forces. Honorable
Chairman, in handling this bill, we must be very cognizant of the court ruling, Supreme Court ruling. The Supreme Court ruling states that civilians should not be tried in court martial. They say civilians. Now here you are saying under certain circumstances, exceptional, civilians should be tried in court martial. Now I wanted to know what has changed that the court martial has been doing with the civilian in trying them in court martial now that they seek to change and try them. Because here, principally, the ruling says civilians, not exceptional, civilians. So there it causes an ambiguity. Attorney General, you will need to go with the guns and dump them in the community. Which means of all these coups, there have been a lot of harms being deposited in the community. Comrade, there is a need to make people fear these guns. There's a greater need to make people fear to use these guns anyhow. No matter I'm here, first and foremost, being from Karamoja, where there are illegal guns, there are guns in the hands of people who are neither soldiers, you don't understand them, but they are armed to the teeth. I could be the one opposing this bill, but I've come here to support the bill, to say, no, look, some of these people must be dealt with. I want to give an example in my constituency. In the last 6 years, people who have been killed with the people who have guns, who are not soldiers, are 3,985. 3,985 people, we have lost them. Police, the best they can do is to do post-mortem report. So far, we have a police station where there's a room full of post-mortem reports only for 3,980. Not even one person has been prosecuted.
An army officer only fears an organ in the army called a court martial. That's the only one. The moment you don't have a court martial, then there would be no army. It will be a ragtag army. That anybody can make a decision on his own. So we need discipline on possession of a gun. I know most of us hold probably pistols, and we fear that the repercussion would be if you commit an offense or if you are implicated, you may be taken to a court martial. But a court martial has people who use blood, and they can be able to decide whether the judgment or the case is right or wrong. So we need to be specific so that we don't leave others outside the schedules. Because at the end we will make a mistake and somebody would be carrying a certain caliber of ammunition and then tells you, but it is not captured in one of your clauses, in the schedules. So we have to be very clear with that.
Thank you,
Honorable Minister.
Yes, there are some which shouldn't be here, like this is shoes. Yeah, please, please. If we had to start looking at shoes, this one looks like an officer's shoe. Really, honorable boss, please, 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 stop this. Stop this. Because people are going to start looking. So, by the way, this shoe is gazetted. Come on, it's for officers. Please, don't vulgarize the law, please. Because we are missing out on the serious aspect, and now we have gone to small little things. And you have taken us there. Please, please, I think review that, come back, and then we can move on the same page. I thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to talk directed to the court-martial officers who are here. All this problem has been caused by you. All this conversation has been caused by you. Why am I saying it? You failed to do what you are supposed to do in the law and veered into other things. And where you would have a legitimate case, like I'm going to support you on some aspects, here, you've spoiled your case. So as we give you a law, don't cause us more contradictions and problems.
Honorable colleagues and members, without any fear of contradiction, that the court did not the Supreme Court did not at any one point say civilians cannot be tried in the general court martial. I want to state that as without fear of contradiction. The Supreme Court did not say that civilians cannot be tried in the court martial. Like Honorable Katuntu said, different judges went through it in different ways and arrived at this different conclusion, to the conclusion that the court martial as it were constituted, and the way it had been set up in the law was not constitutionally set up to try civilians. And on the issue of the offenses, they said they were vague. So, colleagues, it is important that we all really get an understanding and an agreement on what the Supreme Court said. And I have got some of the pages here. It's so far I'm at page 11. But each court was saying the court martial as it is set up, where you're not appointing persons properly, where they are not lawyers, where there is no independence, that court martial that you have there cannot try. But I'll just quote from some pages to exactly